In this episode of Deep Thrones, we review House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 3, The Burning Mill. We go to the Riverlands and fight amongst the Brackens and Blackwoods. We take a trip to King's Landing with Queen Rhaenyra, and we learn about Aemon Targaryen's sex life, plus many more hilarious segments. Winter is here.
Welcome to Deep Thrones, the most entertaining podcast in the world of Ice and Fire. I'm Sims, my partner Sheedy's here. What's up, Sheeds?
What's up, man? I do also want to give you a shout out really quick as we get started after that fire episode.
Fire.
People like when you... Yeah, I don't know why I said that. I didn't like it very much. But people like our new opening and the way that you say the most entertaining.
You know, I mean, you gotta, if you're gonna be entertaining, you gotta be entertaining from the top, you know?
That's a great point. And we start with the articles. We hammer them.
we gotta be entertaining from the top.
Ooh, come on.
So, we did want to open today by just giving a shout out to a lot of our friends and fans and family who have given feedback and really positive reviews, suggestions even that have made us better this season. So, you know who you are. Thank you very much. But we love that. Keep that coming. And we love to just hang out and chat.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Thank you guys for the positive feedback. It really does mean a lot. I mean, this is a labor of love. We have full-time jobs, other duties outside of this podcast, but we take a lot of pride in it. And when you guys interact the way you do, it really means a lot. It lets us know that it's worth it, because we do this anyways. If we were the only ones listening, I feel like.
Oh, for sure. And I hope the listeners pick up on how much fun we have doing this.
Yeah, I hope you guys understand that even with the fun Greens Blacks debate, behind the scenes, we're best pals, and Chris even admits to me, he's like, dude, you're right. You are very smart. You're honestly, the cut of your jib, now that we're on YouTube, you're quite handsome, and you're right a lot about the Greens. And I appreciate when you say that stuff, Chris.
See, the Greens do a lot of sly
propaganda
and overcompensating. Look, he's wearing a green sweater right now.
I am. This is a green sweater. This is the only green shirt I own, and it was just given to me.
Yeah, you don't even really own it.
No, I don't. It was like, well, I do. If you're given a gift, you own it. I've watched enough Judge Mathis to know that if you're given a gift, you cannot sue someone for that gift. All right?
That's a good point.
All right. He went from jail to law school and then a judge.
And this would be a good time to point out, if you're listening to the podcast, we do have the YouTube version available. Follow us on our socials, and podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. So
yeah, check it out. I mean, you can't go wrong on either. You listen to us, you watch us, we appreciate it.
And you had a message you wanted to deliver.
Oh, right. So if you guys recall, we had Westeros Stories. We had some pre-season episodes, and in those pre-season episodes, we talked about Kristen Cuck a little bit and how people were saying that, and I thought it was unfair, and I was like, everyone's judging him off of season 1. So I wanted to quickly get a little status check. We're now I said on that episode, the pre-season 2 episode, I was like, give him a chance. Give him a few more episodes in season 2, and then make your judgments, because then there's enough meat on the bone. There's enough material out there that you can make an honest and informed decision.
The meat's on the bone.
And I would like to know. I mean, you can reach out to us on Instagram, but Chris, I'll push it to you. Has your opinion of Kristen changed? Mine sure has. It's as I said, it's more favorable now.
More favorable.
Oh, yeah.
Mine's definitely changed, and it's changed for the worse. I mean, if anything, it's fallen off a cliff.
We're not watching the same show.
Yeah. I mean, for one young man to just be absolutely devastated and change his whole life by getting dissed by a 15-year-old girl, it's pretty wild.
But she was the queen, or at that time,
princess.
She had a lot of power. She forced him into some situations that were uncool. And now, if you look at it, he's flipped it and reversed it. And you're right, she was a princess, and now the queen is forcing him into situations that are uncool. Talk about what a glow up for Kristen. And now he's running away from dragons and stuff. Oh my god, he's living the dream.
You know, I think he will. Like, this is where he needs to be. Operating within the Red Keep is not really his forte. Being out in the field, I think he is gonna shine a little bit brighter.
He's not a politician. Making him the Hand and then like sending him out to battle is so interesting to me. I feel like the Hand is a not battle guy. He's a guy that's in the Red Keep with you. You know what I mean? So that way, as the old expression goes, when the king shits, the Hand wipes. But if the Hand is far away and the king shits, he's walking around with doo-doo butt. No one's wiping.
I think it depends on the Hand. Like, Tywin Lannister went to battle as Aerys's Hand before.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I also appreciate that you're comparing Kristen to Tywin. I agree.
Come on. All right, let's...
Totally agree. Should we get into this review?
Yeah, let's dive into the
House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 3, title, The Burning Mill. And sure enough, we open in the Riverlands, Chris.
This was the hottest moment of the episode. I don't even mean to skip to the segment, but like in general, like this was the strongest part of this episode, I thought.
Yeah.
Having the Brackens and the Blackwoods perpetually, rivals in the Riverlands. We see them on screen. We saw them a little bit in Season 1 at Storm's End.
Yeah, there was a murder there, too, between the two of them.
They just love killing each other.
They do, and we got Season 1 Game of Thrones style battle here, where it's alluded to, and then there's a cut, and then there's a bunch of death in the battle.
Whispering Wood.
The Whispering Wood, just like that. Also, with the Tyrion situation where he gets knocked out after Bronn tells him to stay low, which is great. But yeah, so they duked it out over the Burning Mill.
So what happened was, Davos Blackwood, who's the Lord of the Blackwoods at this time, walks up, and apparently there's these territory stones where they mark where the boundaries are between the Blackwoods and the Brackens. And of course, like, who knows who moved it? They both move it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Or it probably didn't even move, and they're just like, yeah, who did this?
Some rogue cows. Yo, this definitely moved.
And then Davos thinks it's a good idea to walk up to someone who is, again, lifelong rival, longer than life, centuries.
Oh, yeah.
And be like, I fucking dare you to kill me right now.
And guess what? He took the dare. He should have gone with truth, but he went with dare, and he ended up dead. But yeah, the cows were grazing from the Brackens on Blackwood land. It was like a whole... That was what they were arguing over, and it led to this massive battle. And a lot of people in various small councils throughout this episode for both sides see this as the first true battle, even though some are trying to just be like, well, no, that's what they do. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest. Bracken says to Blackwood something like, your babe killing queen. They say something like, you're usurping, king.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They just can't figure it out. And we've all been there with our neighbors.
It is interesting, though, that, like, they were fighting over, like, a territory battle, but then they brought up by name Rhaenyra and Aegon. So, it's the official first battle.
Yeah, and it's on the small folks' mind, or I guess in this case, it's on everybody's mind now. It's throughout the realm. Everyone's talking about the fact that there are two rulers of Westeros, and everyone's going to be taking sides. And this was, again, like you said, the first real battle.
And then we roll up to Dragonstone. Sir Arik and Eric are being buried. Rhaenyra still has this, like, odd honor that she's bestowing on Arik, saying that, she feels almost bad for him, or she couldn't blame him that he was living up to his oath.
Jace is pissed. Jace is like, he's a traitor. Like, I think Jace, if he had his way, they'd be sending his head to King's Landing.
For sure.
In a little box.
For sure. Jace was pissed that and he had it right. Arik, in my mind, didn't deserve to be buried with Eric.
I agree.
Although Eric probably would have liked it that way, honestly.
True, yeah.
He still loved his brother.
He literally killed himself because he killed his brother. Yeah. Like, he technically, like, kind of was like, I'm out. He gave up on his oath. I agree with Jason. I need Rhaenyra to go over the line here. She needs to be pushed over the edge already. She's being a little Jon Snowy for me.
Oh, yeah.
Little Jon Snowy for me.
This is the theme, like, throughout the episode. She's, like, almost paralyzed in decision-making.
She's like, oh, there's no time for any of this.
And then proceeds to do nothing.
She is my queen. Like, were you talking about yourself in third person? Jesus Christ. Rhaenys talks to her and talks about Eric and Arik. And she said something that I said to you immediately. I, like, paused the episode because I was like, well... She said Otto wouldn't have done this. Essentially, what she's trying to say is this war now is being fought by Aegon and Aemond. But the issue is, and Rhaenys wasn't in the scene, so I can grant the showrunners grace with this. But Otto did tell Sir Harold Westerling at the end of season 1, go to Dragonstone, make it quick and clean. Like, he would do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you called that out right away.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you're right. Rhaenys wasn't in the room. I think Otto has that kind of aura about him that he wouldn't stoop that low, but he would.
He would stoop that low. I think how Otto wouldn't do it, though, this is where I'll draw the line. That was before they knew Viserys was dead. So the hit genuinely would have worked. I think Otto saw this move as full-blown war. Everyone's antennas are up. It was a dumb move because you sent the guy to his death. Like, they never would have fallen for it, right? Yeah. They almost did, but they didn't. Whereas if Sir Harold Westerling went and they successfully kept Rhaenys in-house, he'd be like, hey, Rhaenyra, and she'd be like, oh, Sir Harold, and he could have done it.
Yeah, for
sure.
So
Otto's hit technically would have worked. I think that's the difference there. But Rhaenys doesn't even know that conversation happened. But I just had to call it out.
No, that's a good call out, for sure.
You know what? Thank you.
And then we bounce over to the Red Keep. This is the first time we see Criston Cole with his small council, quote unquote. He's walking through. These King's Guardmen are just like lax, not paying attention to anything.
They're like Aegon's buddies from like last episode.
Yeah, they're his drinking pals.
Yeah, he literally. This is like if like I became president and I made Chris my vice president. But you were smart. You know, it's
that's
not
a winning ticket.
It's not a good example because it would be a winning ticket. But also, if immediately you were like, "Yo, let's go get hammered immediately," like we didn't do any of our like we were in the middle of the war and we were like, "Let's go get drunk." Somewhere.
Let's go get drinks.
It actually sounds like something.
It sounds pretty sick.
Yeah, we would do that. We would do that. You know what, Aegon? Never mind, dude. You're doing great.
And then Criston Cole's just like struggling to get a grasp on. First of all, even how to run the conversations at the small council. Everyone's speaking over each other. Lannister's like coming at someone who's talking about the Hightowers should run the Riverlands War. And Alicent's trying to take control, not really working.
I would love to know how long after Otto left this is supposed to take place because it's an immediate disarray. Immediate.
Oh, yeah.
Otto is gone for 12 hours and they are shitting their britches. Like they don't know what to do. And it goes to show you that you need firm, stern leadership like Otto. Like a guy like Otto is invaluable to your cause. Obviously, when you look at him from the Blacks' perspective, he's a bad guy. He's a gaslighter. Yes, 100%. But from the Greens' perspective, it's too late now. You need him.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of what you think of him, you need him.
He runs a tight ship, and especially when you have a king like Aegon that just kind of is whatever, like will let whatever fly. You need an Otto to rein everybody in, and we see what happens on the small council when that doesn't happen. But at this scene, Criston kind of lays out his plan to go bring his host north into the Riverlands, try to take Harrenhal eventually, but he's going to have some stops along the way. The first one they mention is Rosby.
Yeah.
So, and then we see later on, but yeah, that's the scene there with the small council. And Aegon had the cat spa dagger.
Yeah, I saw that.
In that scene, which is pretty cool.
That was Viserys' dagger that he obviously was given after Viserys' death. A couple things I've noticed too, and also at the end of the one scene with Rhaenyra, they're discussed that there is a raven from Alicent that she refuses to open. Mm-hmm. But one thing I want to point out between those two scenes back to back is there is sort of an underlining theme of Rhaenyra trying really hard to prevent war, even Alicent a little bit, but sort of the male presence on both sides. Her small council and Daemon, minus Rhaenys, and then Aegon and Aemond, minus Alicent, are trying really hard to push toward war. The exception was Otto. I think Otto sort of sided with Alicent.
Yeah, I think Otto was... I think Otto and Alicent know that war is coming, but they are preparing in a very, tactful approach, whereas Aemond and Aegon just want to dive in. Rhaenyra's small council just wants to dive in. Yeah. But Rhaenyra, to me, is kind of delusional, thinking that she can avoid war at this point.
Agreed. I totally agree. And I think the dive-in mindset is if we just blitz them, we can end it quicker and save more lives than a drawn-out gathering of hosts kind of thing, you know? So I think that, in a weird way, is kind of the right strategy.
I mean, yeah, but Vhagar and Sunfire are at King's Landing.
Right,
you know?
That's true. So you have to find a way to draw them out, so that's going to be on them to figure it out. Listen, I don't get paid by these fucking small councils to figure it out. How dare you put me on the spot like that in front of this?
That's what strategy...
What did I tell you about putting me on the spot?
That's what strategy with Lord Mims is for.
That's true. I should ask that. I forgot what I'm going to ask. We'll figure it out later. My Syrian and Rhaenyra chat... And Myseria's like, hey, I warned him last episode, which we thought she did. It didn't show, but she did. And she's like, can I get a place at your court? What's the deal?
Yeah, she's like, how much? What's the price of saving a queen nowadays? She's very sassy for someone who's like borderline
A prisoner.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's still like, if Rhaenyra like it was like cut off her head, they wouldn't give it a second thought.
yeah.
You know, but she so she's getting a place at Rhaenyra's court, and essentially Rhaenyra has a Master of Whispers. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool.
That's 1 out of 2 this episode.
Yeah, and then she talks to Rhaena, and essentially this conversation was pretty convoluted because people are going all over the fucking place. All right, so dig in and focus. Do you remember where they? I don't remember where this.
So Rhaenyra's hatching this plan. Remember in in episode 1, when they won over Jay and Aaron in the Vale, Aaron's one request was to have someone, a dragon, protecting the Eyrie. And so Rhaenyra's planning to send Joffrey, and I think Tyraxes is the dragon.
Yeah, I believe so.
To the Eyrie to protect that. And then she also talks about sending her youngest 2 kids with Daemon, Aegon and Viserys, to Essos.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and rewatch. I think Rhaena's gonna escort Joffrey to the Eyrie and then also go to Essos.
Yeah, she's going. All of them are essentially going to the Eyrie, but Joffrey's staying, as are 2 of like the teenage-sized dragons, probably lower than teenage. And then she's going to Essos with 2 boys, where of course Laena died. So a lot of sadness there for Rhaena.
And Rhaena feels kind of dissed in this moment because she's feeling like she's being put on the outskirts, whereas like Bela's has a very important role scouting King's Landing.
Yeah, which she's a little younger. It's fair, and she also doesn't have.
She doesn't have a dragon. Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
Fly around on a broomstick? Or?
Yeah, it would be like, Rhaena, why don't you go to King's Landing and sort out? But she on a broomstick. I like that one too. Yeah, and also Sea Smoke's just like flying around the entire time, like, pissed off at the world. Yeah, out of nowhere. Grow up. Grow the fuck up, Sea Smoke.
They're really planting the seeds for these extra dragons flying around.
Planting the seeds for the extra dragons. The guys, in 2 weeks, you're going to re-listen to this and crap your pants at how smart that was. Caraxes and Daemon arrive at Harrenhal. It's spooky.
It is. It's spooky. It's leaky. It's dark. Imagine the mold problems in that place.
You know what? That's the thing. You can say all you want about a dragon, but black mold is the silent killer. Those people
long term,
Next thing you know, you're dying.
No one's thinking about that.
No one's thinking about that. That's actually a really good point. But so the castle has parts of it that are still livable, but up top, of course, infamously in the lore of Westeros, was torched by Aegon the Conqueror. Hord Harren was a very cocky person who thought his walls were thick and his castle was high. Dragons can fly and they breathe fire, and he cooked alive inside. But it is said to be a very
cooked.
haunting... All-time cooking. And essentially, Daemon has shown up because he needs the support of the River Lords.
And Daemon's been planning this for years.
He's hyped. He is so fucking hyped.
And all of a sudden, like, he makes it into, like, this chamber where Simon Strong is, who's the Castellan of Harrenhal. Again, planning for years, and his line that he came up with is, "I'm here to claim Harrenhal."
You know what, though? Every episode we start, I'm like, I got 15 great lines I'm going to start with, and then when the bright lights turn on, you get a little, you get mumble brain, and you're like, hi, how you doing? I had to claim Harrenhal. It was a very funny scene. Of course, though, this is, like Chris said, this is Sir Simon Strong, and I think he's the uncle of Larys, and I think Daemon sort of tests him on that. He's hesitant to eat the food. He's a little worried because technically Larys Strong is agreeing, and he's technically the actual Lord of Harrenhal, but holds no true authority there. And Sir Simon immediately bends the knee and says, "Nah, fuck that guy."
Yeah, he says, like, he basically says Larys would be better off dead. He accuses Larys of killing Harwin and...
Zero evidence.
What was Harwin's pop's name?
Lionel and Harwin.
Lionel, yeah. Which he did. I mean, he totally murdered them. He burned them.
But he doesn't know that.
And then in this scene...
Hearsay.
Then in this scene, Daemon takes over the moniker Your Grace.
Yeah.
Which of course is him saying that he's the king of Westeros.
But isn't he technically, if he's married to the queen? Like, isn't he the king?
It sounded like from Simon's reaction that since he would technically be like the king dowager, I guess, almost.
Gotcha.
Like,
so we keep calling him, so you call him the prince still? I think king is appropriate, isn't it?
Let's get him on the horn.
Let's get him on the horn.
Let's
but
get
either
Simon
way,
Strong.
it was an awkward exchange.
Yeah.
But the reason, I mean, they discussed the fact that there's some 40,000 swords in the Riverlands, and Daemon wants them on his cause, but apparently Lord Grover Tully is frail, and the Riverlands are sort of having their own issues, as we already discussed at the Burning Mill, and Sir Simon Strong isn't really pulling punches. He's being very honest about the frailty of the allegiances.
Of the whole Riverlands. One thing I did like that, again, like the world building, they're explaining kind of what's happening with the Riverlands, and it's not going to be as simple as Daemon thought.
Yeah.
The one thing that I don't like is how uneducated Daemon seemed about the state of the Riverlands at this point. The fact that he asked like who the Lord Paramount is of the Riverlands, like Daemon Targaryen would 100% know that Grover Tully.
Or some Tully.
Or
Even if he doesn't know the guy's
Lord
exact name.
Tully, right?
Yeah.
And then he asked about the dynamic of the Brackens and Blackwoods, like he doesn't know that they fight all the time.
Crowd service. There's a fan service line. That was.
And I also think there's part of it, like you were saying when we watched, like they need to explain outwardly to the viewer who doesn't know.
It's to the viewer as much as it is to Daemon. I mean, it's more to the viewer than it is to Daemon. Like you said, Daemon should know that stuff. I'm pretty sure he even said in season 1, Rhaenyra says Lord Tully's, a fickle man and he needs to be talked to directly. So maybe Daemon maybe it was a long ride. He was tired. He was jet lagged a little bit. You know how it is when you fly.
I mean, the mold was getting to him.
Probably. It's that black fucking mold. It's the silent killer, guys. Also, while you're listening, check your carbon monoxide detectors. You got to make sure all that shit's up to date.
Do we have a sponsor on that?
No.
Damn it, we need
a carbon
Lowe's.
Lowe's with their carbon monoxide detectors. Give us a sponsorship. You will not regret it.
Yeah.
We'll drop black mold references in every fucking episode. Well, I guess this is carbon monoxide. It has nothing to do with black mold, but you get it, Lowe's.
I mean,
I'm sure they got mold
home
remover.
problems.
They got cleaner at Lowe's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not loyal to Lowe's either. I mean, we could whoever wants to give us money.
Yeah, Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks. So, honestly, whoever tosses us the most ducats, guess what?
I mean,
the official sponsor.
You could also save big money at Menards.
That's true. The official hardware store of Deep Thrones. And from there, I also wanted to give a quick shout out about Sir Simon Strong. This week, our friend of the pod, Colleen, who's been a guest like 3 or 4 times, mentioned that there is an Instagram account where they rate House of the Dragon characters by if they can find the G-spot or not. And apparently Harwin Strong was number 1. So shout out to Harwin Strong.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. to the realist. Many a G-spots will not be found now because...
I mean, he found Rhaenyra's for sure.
We don't know about that. We don't know. There's no proof that she ever orgasmed with Harwin Strong. You guys just say things and act like it's true,
It's a couple strong boys.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That is a good point. I can, speaking from experience, have no clue what a G-spot is. I'm not sure.
You're like, what is this account? What are they talking about?
A G-spot. Is this where the fellas hang out? Yeah, I'm there. I'm always at the G-spot. So Sir Criston Cole meets Gawain Hightower, who I believe is the brother of Alicent.
Yes, and I remember in season 1 there was some kind of confusion amongst the fan base of whether Gawain and Ormond Hightower would both be featured. And now we see, Gawain's present in King's Landing and Ormond's on the march to the Riverlands from Hightower.
Yeah.
But Gawain is very cocky. He does not like Criston Cole for obvious reasons. Cole stole his dad's job.
That's one, but also, aren't people Hightowers are from the Reach, correct?
Yes.
Doesn't Reach and Dorne have a little bit of
they got some
Criston
beef.
is Dornish, and he even says it's an honor to march with a Dornishman, and it's like, I feel like a racist comment a little bit in the world, the way he said it.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
He said it, yeah.
But also, though, in canon, the Hightowers are pretty far west. Like, they're on the Sunset Sea.
Gotcha.
Whereas, the Reach marches, right? So, like, your Tarleys are going to battle a lot with the Dornishmen. The South Stormlanders, like, basically the mountains there are called the Marches that separate Dorne and the Reach. So, like, maybe Gawain was just, I don't know, just being a cha in general.
He just has that vibe, He's also a redhead. So, for all of our redhead listeners...
Can't trust him.
Yeah, can't... No, I'm kidding. I love redheads. Everyone of any hair color, you're great, and we support you, especially if you're shopping at Menards, which has some of the best drywall stuff you can ever find. And if you need something level, they got levels.
You ain't lying.
Rhaenyra has a small council meeting. Oh, but before that, actually, Sir Kristen asks for Alicent's favor, and Gwaine just kind of eyeballs it and is like, get fucked.
Alicent was pissed, too.
Oh, yeah. She sort of... But then she took it out of her bosom, which is what I think that's called. When they wear a dress like that, it's always like from the bosom.
Yeah.
And then she handed it to him. And then he was... You know that's in his spank bank. You know?
Oh, dude, he's sniffing that thing.
Those guys are camping out in the woods while they're marching, and Kristen's like, I need 25 minutes for my reflective time. No one come bother me.
Dude, Kristen needs 5 minutes max.
Yeah. He's like, now the hand of the king must use his hand for his duties. Rhaenyra has a small council meeting of her own, and again, this is proof that the men are pushing her toward war. There's no word from Daemon. There's a lot of confusion.
Yeah, these guys are getting real disrespectful to my queen at this council meeting.
They are. There's no doubt about it.
They're just really trying to push their agenda. One of the guys even suggests that, we should move you away for your protection, and Rhaenyra is like, fuck you, that's treason.
She said, you're lucky you didn't go any further with that. It's getting real dicey in Rhaenyra's camp. There's a lot of, not infighting, but just, like Chris said, the men are trying to almost, seize control because they're tired of her inaction.
Yeah, I think, if she would just do something, maybe you don't want to go head on to King's Landing, fine. But do something. These guys are right, to a sense. The war started. You're sitting here trying to figure out how to avoid war. It's here already.
She's in an unwinnable situation. But the issue is that even if it's an unwinnable situation, now it's life or death.
Yeah.
Your children's lives are at stake. And honestly, knowing that, if this was Cersei, the Greens would be fucked already.
Oh, yeah.
She would have sent the dragon, or she would, because she would have gone face first into Vhagar, but she at least would have done it.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's not the right move, but you get what I'm saying.
Action means something.
And Rhaenys drops a little knowledge on them when she's leaving. Rhaenys, the queen, that never was. She goes up to them and is like, my grandfather.
She draws a comparison because Rhaenyra has Jaehaerys the Conciliator's crown, so she's drawing a comparison to Rhaenyra's. If you're not calling it inaction, right? You're calling it patience. You're calling it, tactfulness.
And if you're calling it that, all-time spin zone.
yes. But Jaehaerys, she said Jaehaerys ruled the longest out of all Targaryen kings, including the Conqueror. So I think the comparison there is the Conqueror. Yeah, he kicked ass, but Jaehaerys was on paper maybe the most successful Targaryen king, depending upon how you're looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with all that. Rhaenys and Corlys have a quick scene. Not much there, except Rhaenys is worried. She's fearful for her family. She's fearful for Corlys out in the battlefields, out on the ocean.
They're just relationship building there, I think.
That's what that was, but it's an important scene. It's always nice to have those moments between probably the best couple we've seen on screen since who? Ned and Kat? Jon and Ygritte, maybe? Better than Jon and Ygritte. They were always trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Finally, we see Rhaenyra officially send Rhaena off with 2 small dragons, a whole clutch of eggs, and all of her sons, essentially, except Jace.
So 4 dragon eggs, and again, Rhaena even had a conversation with Baela about how pissed Rhaena was that she's being sent out on this unimportant mission in her eyes. But then when the dragon's eggs are presented, it kind of changes her tune, because she's like, oh man, I'm kind of the future of Rhaenyra's claim, of House Targaryen in general. Once they all start killing each other, this is what's left of us.
This is a lot riding on her patience and success of, and she's sort of, like you said, what is she even going to fight on? She doesn't have a fucking dragon, but Baela sort of says to her, you don't understand, this is paramount to, the lineage of the entire family. No matter which side wins, you're sort of...
I wonder what dragons those are going to end up being.
Well, yeah, I speculated to you aloud, maybe Daenerys's, but there's 4. Unless one of them hatches.
They're heading to Essos, so it would make sense. Yeah,
and maybe one hatches and becomes another. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But I would assume they're not. They are going to drop. They are by the time this series is over. 3 eggs will be shuttled off somewhere, and everyone could be like, "Oh, yeah."
Oh yeah.
Alicent and Helena chat. Really interesting scene. Helena's being very weird about death.
Helena is, I think, disassociating from Jaehaerys' death and her role in it, quite frankly, I do think that there's also, like, she brings up a good point about the small folk lose kids at a much higher rate than we do. Like, we shouldn't even really be this concerned about it. But she's just trying to rationalize and almost, like, justify her, I think, in her mind, selling out her kid and pointing and ordering him to death.
Best part of that scene, too, was at the very end. She turns to Alicent and says, and I forgive you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, Alicent had a look of like, well, for what? But then she cried because the realization is that, like, Helena is a true victim of Alicent and Otto and Aegon usurping the throne.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it wasn't, the I forgive you wasn't about her being marched through the streets. It was about for Jaehaerys' death.
Yes.
And Alicent's essentially bawling, like her face is steady but her eyes are just streaming tears because she's like, she's fucking right.
And Helena has a straight face the whole time. This is an interesting way that they're playing her character on screen. In Fire and Blood, Helena's just fully distraught after Jaehaerys dies. Like, to the point where she's like a recluse, all like dirty looking, all that stuff. And here, like, she seems on the outside at least like buttoned up and like, hey, like, it is what it is sort of deal.
There's probably more trauma to come.
Oh, for sure.
But, yeah, she's keeping it together compared to what happens in the books for sure. And there's nothing worse than when someone forgives you for something you haven't even asked forgiveness for, you know? You can tell Alicent sort of was, I think she was sad, but she also was like, fuck you. I didn't ask for it.
Alicent's way too proud.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, she'll never. Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, even, like, directly, if you're not thinking big picture of usurping the throne and all that, like, maybe Kristen Cole could have reacted quicker if he wasn't balls deep in Alicent.
Yeah, but unfortunately he was. There's no taking that back, you know? Aegon is being suited, and Larys comes to treat with him, and essentially the whole point of this, and also all Aegon's buddies are fucking idiots. They're not watching any
awful.
door. Yeah. Larys just, they, like, stopped Larys real quick, and he's like, I'm going to treat the king. And essentially the gist of this is Larys is like, you know, the small folk are saying that you're going out on Sunfire so that Aemon and Alicent can rule. He's just stirring the pot.
He is. To me, this is showing that he's tying his lot in with Aegon, because he's essentially trying to protect Aegon from himself. Which, you know, when I backtrack, I thought about Larys as being very self-interested and chaos, like we talked about, just chaos.
Yeah.
But he is kind of tying his own well-being to Aegon, at least temporarily.
Definitely.
So.
Baelish was very much chaos as a ladder, and Larys, I think, is like, chaos is super fun.
Yeah.
This is a silly little time, and I get to be silly and be really effective, you know?
And Aegon's wearing Aegon the Conqueror's armor here, which I thought was a cool touch.
Disappointing to see he also was a little guy. Because Aegon, like, my vision of Aegon the Conqueror, like, Henry Cavill, you know...
Well, you know, they probably they can rework that
armor.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to make it smaller than it is to make it bigger.
Yes,
they rolled up the little legs, and they were like, "Yeah." He's swimming in it. He's like the kid in Christmas Story, just like this is huge.
And we'll see that armor again in the Aegon the Conqueror series.
For
I'm sure.
Oh, and if it is Henry Cavill, could you imagine that blonde hair? You get a little 5 o'clock shadow. He's looking hot. Maybe he fights shirtless. We don't know, but it's an idea.
Well, he's wearing armor.
Fuck, I'm not interested in the show anymore. But also, end of that scene, Aegon gets his Master of Whisperers and names Larys Master of Whisperers.
Boom.
Congratulations,
2 for
Larys.
2.
Can't wait to see that LinkedIn update. I'm going to hammer that like button. Larys, me and Larys would be such good buddies. Legit.
Who do you think has a stronger network right now, Larys or Mysaria?
That's a good question. I think Larys, because Mysaria had her thing burned down and lost some at the end of season 1 due to Larys, but she's also hungry. She's motivated, and you cannot put a price on motivation.
Dude, the underdog story.
And honestly, I would be rooting for her, but again, I'm too tight with my boy Larys. And also her accent drives me fucking nuts, so I can't, in good faith, root for her.
Dude, you said she toned it down this season.
Should just speak straight American. Straight one character.
What does that mean? Like, what is she speaking? Like she's from Louisiana or like Florida?
Where Chicago is, to me, a good American accent is Chicago. Everywhere else in America is incorrect. We are what the founders intended. So we then go to Flea Bottom. They're partying. Ulf the White is there. He's a big character, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All my homies hate Ulf White.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But yeah, so more new character introductions. He's claiming that he's a dragon seed, son of Jaehaerys the Conciliator. brother to,
I think he's Jaehaerys' grandson, Balon's son.
Balon's son, brother to
Daemon.
Viserys and Daemon. Yes, correct.
Yeah, he.
R.I.P. Baylor.
Yeah, but he does say at this point, Rhaenyra is the true. Yeah, Balon the Bold, right? Is that it, or the Blessed, or something?
Bold. No, Baylor the Blessed was later on.
Gotcha.
Balon the Bold was the pops.
But so he does say though at the end of the scene that Rhaenyra is his true queen, and like as the N from queen is going out of his mouth, Aegon walks in, and out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's partying, dude.
He's coming to party with his
funny?
boys.
When this scene started, we saw a tavern, and where the armor scene ended, they were like talking about going out and getting the squire bedded. And then they open up in a tavern, and we're like, no way he's actually like going to go out.
He looked angry, and I literally was like, I'm glad that Aegon now is serious about shit. And then immediately, like, he's at the tavern with the boys. And this is what I was talking about at the start of the episode. Like, dude, you're in a civil war. I love you, Aegon, but you got to be careful. I worry about you, buddy. But yeah, so Ulf White, and there's nothing worse than when you're talking shit about someone, and they like sort of near, and you're like, they probably didn't hear, but there's that lingering, like, what if? Like, we hung out yesterday, and all I did was talk mad shit about this guy behind his back, but he was always with me.
I heard all of it.
God damn it. Dude.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. It's not a
small... Podcast is over.
For those of you guys listening, it's not small. It's massive. I was just kidding. So Aegon rolls up to party, and then Ulf White is sort of like, oh, fuck, it's Aegon. Actually, he's the true king. I don't know what I'm saying. And then they go to a brothel, and he's going like, dude, this is like
he's hammered.
But also like a very graphic scene. I'm no prude, but like obviously it was a prosthetic, but there was a full blowy going on.
Oh yeah. You saw a lot of cock in this episode.
A lot of cock. And,
I almost think part of it was like HBO is like, dude, we didn't have enough sex scenes in the first 2 episodes. Got to make up for it.
Yeah, blowjobs. Immediately front and center of the screen. And they're like, get out the IMAX cameras, get the Dolby sound. Let's do it right.
And Aegon's just opening up all these like, kind of blind shades.
Put on your 3D glasses for this scene. Yeah, he's opening it up because he's trying to find like the most experienced prosty for the squire.
And lo and behold, he rolls across Aemond.
And the mommy that he had last episode, apparently she's just rocking worlds.
I mean, according to Aegon, she knows what's up. And Aemond's just pissed. Aegon goes on this whole drunken rant about how Aemond's never seen another woman except for her. And Aemond, at the end of it, gets up and's like, yeah, let the squire have her turn. A whore's a whore, essentially.
Yeah, he hangs dong, too.
Oh, yeah, we did get a Aemond cock reveal.
Must have been pretty cold in that brothel. Got you, Aemond. I love you, though, buddy. As, like, it was a little... It was a start.
Definitely a prosthetic. Like,
definitely, yeah, probably not real. But good to see Aemond One Eye's other... too easy. I'm not even going to finish that joke because I'm above that. And the good people at Menards would not stand by it.
Yeah, we lost all our sponsors.
They're all gone.
They're gone.
Damn,
we're broke again.
Yeah. So anyways, I just wrote down for that Aemond dick. But Rhaenyra then has a moment with her children's things. She's very sad. She has like a box of trinkets. She's put the toys in of her sons, but also like Alicent's note is in there.
Alicent's note's in there. She decides to open it up after that conversation with Rhaenys and the small council kind of pushing her to go to war. And a wild plan is hatched, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that wild plan. I'm going to have some thoughts on that. Gwaine and Cole are traveling to battle, essentially to the next castle to sort of make sure that their allegiances are straight with the Greens. If you're watching the pod, again, I'm in Green. And they're in an open field, and like Kristen's like, we're going to sleep in the woods with the boys. And Gwaine is like, nah, me and my guys are going to go hang out in an inn. Like my nephew would be fine with me getting a good night's sleep. And then sure enough, they look up at the skies and like they kind of see a shadow, and they're like, oh, we're exposed. And it's Baela on Moondancer.
Mm-hmm. Baela comes swooping down. I think like later on in the episode, she says to Rhaenyra, I didn't engage. You told me not to.
She wanted to.
But I thought she would have for sure blasted Dracarys to those boys.
She would have if she had the opportunity. Like, I think that like when she had to pull up from the trees, her and Moondancer potentially could have died if they flew into those. So that was the issue. Also, it's just setting up more of Gwaine and Cole's rivalry.
Yes, classic rich boy rolling in. Kind of like in the scene later on when Rhaenyra and Alicent are talking. They talk about these young men wanting to go to war for glory. That is Gwaine Hightower.
Yeah, and much like we talked last episode about Sansa, about the
Yeah,
whole folly that is the glory of war. Guess what? It's not like that. You look at the end of the burning mill when it cuts, and it's just men lying there dead and nameless. That's what you. That's what you get.
And Kristen, I think Kristen knows that, right? Like he wasn't born into nobility.
He had an episode of a lot of thought, and he doesn't look happy at any point anymore.
No. But he's making the right calls. He saved their life there.
100%.
Also, side note, Bela, maybe like just fly 20 feet higher or so and just like blast over the trees where they're running.
Yeah, trees are flammable.
Yeah.
In my understanding. Oh, but also though, you know what? It's like one of those Smokey the Bear things that only you can prevent forest fires. And
you think she's anti-forest fire?
There's nothing more tragic, to be honest. A good forest. You ever see the news when there's a forest fire? It's terrible.
Oh, it's awful.
I know. And I understand that you're at war and Kristen's in there, but you got to think about migrational birds. You could throw off their patterns and shit, dude.
I mean, think about the homeowners insurance prices in Westeros going up after
that. Can you imagine with this whole civil war, the prices of shit in Westeros?
Dude, the Riverlands are not going to be able to be insured. Like if you buy a house in the Riverlands, you're not going to be able to get insurance.
It's going to be a shit show. I honestly now you really see the toll of this war, and it's. I think this is a good lesson for all of us as we move forward. That yeah, there's going to be death, there's going to be pain, but think about the premiums.
Dude, yeah. Honestly, they're going into default every
through
time.
the roof. Mm-hmm. All right. Good luck getting a loan. Bela gives news to Rhaenyra that Cole is on the move, and Rhaenyra's men again are pressuring her. Rhaenys is there, just kind of. She just likes to she sort of just is always kind of looking and listening. But Rhaenyra clearly in this scene is uncomfortable because she has no fucking clue what to do.
She's holding on to this thought that war can be avoided, and they're sitting here saying war is happening. Bela saw them marching.
Kristen Cole is going and making men pledge. Any house that stays loyal to her is going to be put to the sword.
Yeah.
And she's doing nothing to protect them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is where you miss Daemon, right?
100%, because but I understand his hot-headed approach with the Jaehaerys situation was a dropped ball. But this is a situation where the last thing she needs is word spreading that lords who stay loyal to her are put to the sword without any assistance. Mm-hmm. That's a bad look.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very wise take by you and might be a premonition in episodes to come.
Ooh, I have the sights. I am a dreamer, much like Elena.
And then I would love to see Corlys at the council there.
Me too.
Because I feel like he could have some useful insight.
His absence, I will actually argue this, his absence right now is bigger than Daemon's. He, I think, would be the better voice of what correctly to do, whereas Daemon would be like, we'll go kill Vhagar. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas Corlys would be like, no, we got to do this, this, and the other. Mm-hmm. I think you're 100% right. Daemon's in his quarters at Harrenhal, and some spooky shit happens. Someone's breaking in, and he's getting teleported, he's seeing things, and we got a cameo.
Dude, he, So you were saying that you like how Harrenhal is kind of presented.
I do.
Yeah, speak to that a little bit.
It is a haunted castle in the lore, and they're playing it up as such. And when Daemon is walking through the castle, there's echoes, there's spooky noises. When he goes into that room, I was like, who's sitting there? And it's Melial as young Rhaenyra, sort of, and sewing Jaehaerys' head on. Yeah. He is having a Daenerys House of the Undying style dream, which the woman he then sees in the Godswood of Harrenhal is Alice Rivers, which you'll talk to in a second. Or talk about, I should say, and she is sort of she has a witch-like tendency, maybe even a little warlock, not warlock, but she probably spit the dust in his face, and Daemon is tripping balls right now.
Oh yeah, so the lady in the woods, her name's Alice Rivers. She's a very ominous figure throughout the books in Fire and Blood, and I think she's even mentioned in a World of Ice and Fire.
100%.
But she's in multiple mentions with nobility, including Aemon Targaryen, including Daemon Targaryen, obviously, but no specifics are really given on what impact she's playing. So in a scene like this, just completely fucking Daemon's head.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do with it later on, but I mean we saw in the trailer for next episode
he's in the throne room.
Yeah, which is obviously a dream.
He's in Harrenhal, so he's not in the throne room. He's again going to be tripping balls, which, listen, you're in the middle of a war. Now is not the time to be popping mushrooms with a new friend at Harrenhal. Which I'm curious to see how she continues to weave her own influence. We're seeing this with all these side characters are finding a way to sort of dig their claws into this war.
I think we're going to see the side characters are going to become more and more main characters.
The side pieces are becoming the main pieces, which you love to. Sometimes that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's hard to break. It's hard to break that barrier. And then she wraps up this scene by saying, "You will die here."
Yeah, she says, "You will die in this place," which is like, first of all, nice to meet you. Hi, what's your name? Like, I hate when people just open that with me.
And then he wakes up.
Yep, and then he wakes up, and Rhaenyra meets with Mysaria. Essentially, he's like, "Yo, how do I get into King's Landing?" And Mysaria is like, "That's a dumb idea."
Yes.
And Rhaenyra's like, "It is. Let's do it." And then there's like it's like you need like a montage. Essentially, her and one Queen's Guard get on a little boat, a little dinghy that must have been Davos Seaworth. They get smuggled into King's Landing. She dresses as Septa, smart move. She goes to the Sept where she meets with Alicent in this conversation. It's good. Like, they talk about important shit.
Yeah, they do. It kind of goes. It ebbs and flows in this conversation. So, Alicent is very much headstrong in her belief. You could tell she really believes that Aegon deserved to be on the throne, and that Viserys told her that.
Yeah.
And she had such conviction that Rhaenyra even starts believing it a little bit too as they're talking.
She's crying.
The
whole purpose is to prevent war. That she's trying to appeal to Alicent with that.
Mm-hmm. And they have a back and forth, and they start again talking about Aegon's claim and Alicent's role in that. Again, Alicent believes it. Rhaenyra then is listening, crying, and Alicent talks about the prince that was promised and saying that was Aegon.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra stops her, and she's like, "He used those words?
Yeah.
He said that to me about this story about Aegon the Conqueror."
She's like, "Did she mention me?" She's like, "No, she mentioned Aegon." And Rhaenyra's crying. She's like, "Oh, I'm fucked." Like, he did want him to be king. And then she's like, "He told you about the Song of Ice and Fire?" Mm-hmm. And Alicent looks at him like, "No, he didn't do Def Jam poetry. Like, what are you talking about? The Song of Ice and Fire?" And that's when Rhaenyra realizes, she goes, "Yeah, he told me that same story about Aegon the Conqueror." And Alicent has a great line where she stares at her for like a beat. It's a full pause, and she goes, "The Conqueror." And not like the Conqueror questioning, but like, "Oh, yeah, that makes, oh, fuck."
Like, she knew. And then she dug in, which, like, again, it's way too late. The war's here. Alicent has no power. Like, it's not like she could just walk over to the Red Keep and be like, "All right, I was wrong.
Yeah, I'll go hit the surrender button. Yeah, I'll be right back." But also, it's just like, she's very lucky that Alicent is insane and didn't immediately turn to like one of her men and was like, "By the way, why don't we kill the Septa?" You know what I mean? And I guess Rhaenyra just deuces out, as does Alicent, and it's like war now is unavoidable. And it's like, this scene's purpose to mine eyes was so that Rhaenyra knows that Viserys wanted her to be queen. And in order for her to get that information, she had to make a mind-boggling decision.
Yeah. To me, this is one that is a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, a little bit.
But, according to the books, like the sources that we have in the books would not have known that this meeting happened. So it's possible, but
it's what it serves to do is, like we said, let Rhaenyra know. You got to think about, would the characters do this? And the characters, because you don't want a show to be plot driven. You want it to be character driven. You don't want characters to do something to get to a story endgame. You want characters to do something because it's what the character would do. And in fairness, House of the Dragon has set Rhaenyra up as someone who oftentimes tries to appeal to Alicent's emotions.
Yeah, that's true.
So she is, she went, and they also already showed her at Storm's End, which is also a place she probably shouldn't have been. So she's not afraid to risk it. And also, Dragonstone is very close to King's Landing anyway, so it's not like it's far.
Even Rhaenyra, as young Rhaenyra, was very risky, and just like, if she wanted to go put herself in a situation, like, she would do it. So
yeah, like when she banged Kristen Cole, just like that. But that was The Burning Mill, Season 2, Episode 3 of House of the Dragon. We're already getting mixed reviews from friends, but I know people who loved it, people who are meh on it. But no one hated it, it appears. I think I'm probably the hardest on it. Chris, what is your rating of said episode?
So my rating of Burning Mill is 6. And that's low for my ratings.
It's low for you.
But I didn't love that they made Daemon seem dumb at Harrenhal. I didn't love the Rhaenyra Alicent scene. Like, I like the conversation. To me, it's just kind of far-fetched that would happen.
I agree.
But I did like seeing the Brackens and Blackwoods in that setup in the beginning. So
Definitely.
there was some good, some bad, but I give it a 6.
We prepared for this to be a bridge episode. Next episode's the big one. 4.9 from me. I wasn't a huge fan. Mostly, I actually, like, a lot of it I did like. My big issue was the Rhaenyra's decision. I thought was, like, weird. I thought I was like, you don't need to do that. Like, who cares? It's war. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I am just like Aemond and Aegon, where I'm like, war.
No, I mean, like, in Fire and Blood, Rhaenyra was super, anti-war. Like, not anti-war. She was just, like, very indecisive. And it was more so because she was mourning Luke's death. But in this version of what we're seeing, it's because she wants to avoid war. So it's just a different take on it. But, I'm assuming we're just going to move on from this whole conversation next episode anyways. So.
Yeah, guess what? Sounds great. Doesn't work. Best line, Yas Queen. I'll go first with this.
Yeah, lead us off.
My best line was Daemon Targaryen, I'm claiming Harrenhal. Thought it was sweet, short, to the point.
He stole mine, by the way.
Oh, no way.
Because he can see my laptop from this angle.
That's not, I didn't steal it. I can't, First off, I can't see. All right, these glasses are not even the correct prescription, I think. They make it worse. So my Yas Queen was on this Green Small Council, one of the, I think it's the Master of Laws, I forgot his name, but he says, Lord Tully is a flaccid fool who couldn't control his cock in a cunny.
Oh, yeah.
What a wild thing to say. I don't know what... I'm going to have to Google cunny, but I'm afraid to.
I'm sure you can figure out by context what it is.
Can't do it. Don't know.
My best line then, since I have to change on the fly, would be Alicent during that conversation with Rhaenyra when she did say, oh, the Conqueror?
Yeah, it's a great line.
Great line. And then my Yas Queen was... the guy at the tavern talking to Ulf White after Ulf claimed that he was a dragon seed. And he goes, you don't look very much like Viserys or his brother.
Yeah, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
He's got, like, gray hair. He's
a liar. He's a con man. We don't like Ulf.
Yeah, fuck Ulf. All my homies hate Ulf.
All my homies hate Ulf.
You said that already. I stole it. Hottest moment?
Burning Mill. Easy.
Mill. Yeah.
Even though we didn't see the actual battle, just seeing how the Brackens and Blackwoods interact... never seeing them in Game of Thrones and now seeing them for the second and a half time in House of the Dragon, I eat it up every time.
Yeah. Mine is Aemon hanging dong. I wouldn't say I eat that up every time, but I will say it was cool to see the Greens in all their glory. Bearing it all.
That was all of their glory there?
There's more glory to come. That was just a taste. There's a little bit of glory there, all right? It's not all the glory, all right? But it's good to see. You look at Alicent, boom, getting hers. Aemon, boom. Kind of, I guess. He's cuddling up. That's what he likes. Aegon, I don't know what he's up to, but he's having a good time.
He's having a blast.
Everyone's Greens are up right now.
Some would say Kristen's getting his.
Kristen's getting his. We got Gwaine. He's kind of a Chad, sure, but he's fun to have around. Otto's right now probably kicking it in Highgarden with the Tyrells, squirreling around that castle. The Greens are still up right now. R.I.P. Jaehaerys. We regret that. But small price to pay for the currency. Yeah, Aegon moved on quick. I told you. Three days or so, and everyone's fine.
Yeah, Aegon and Helena they're like, fuck it. We don't care anymore.
Yeah, no. Neither do I.
Our Mount Rushmore this week. So this one I actually came up with on the drive over here today. It is the Mount Rushmore of Westeros beefs.
Biggest beefs.
So this is in honor of course, the Greens versus the Blacks, the whole theme of this show that we're watching. So we're going to choose the biggest beefs throughout Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. So you can lead us off.
Oh, I can. Awesome.
Yeah.
I think I let us off last week.
Whatever.
I'll lead us off. All right, cool. My biggest beef this week, number one, it's an easy pick. Sheedy versus Rickon Stark. This thing goes back a long distance. I think worthless is an understatement. It's funny because worthless, there is nothing of less worth than worthless, and yet he somehow
is under that. Wow.
And I'll find a word one day, but there's none for it.
Wow.
He's a real, you know what Rickon is? He's a bit of a cunny.
Oh, so you know what it is now?
Nope, just guessing.
Okay. Mine's going to be Ice King versus Jon Snow.
Oh, man. That breaks my heart.
One of the all-time beefs. They kind of fudged it at the end, but all-time beef throughout 7.5 seasons.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to go with a serious one. Viserys and Littlefinger. Or I'm sorry, Varys and Littlefinger.
Okay.
Varys and Littlefinger. Viserys.
Dude, could you imagine Viserys versus Littlefinger?
But Daenerys' brother Viserys,
Oh.
he would have that motherfucker in a chokehold. He would have his head so far up his own ass, Littlefinger would be like, look at him, he's an idiot. But Varys and Littlefinger, that is
an all-time beef. Yeah. I'm going to go Sandor versus Gregor Clegane. Woo! Good old Clegane Bowl.
The original brother bowl. Not twins, but they were still brothers. And you love to see it. I'm going to go with Arya Stark and dying. Because she, she was, when Daenerys is torching King's Landing, she's in the middle of it, didn't die. Fine. She ended the apocalypse and had like a bump on the head. That was it. She got stabbed 4 times by the waif and then dove into sewage. Didn't die.
She got stabbed 4 times by a trained assassin.
And Roose Bolton took 1 stab from Ramsay and immediately dropped. The same stab that killed... Khal Drogo died from infection from a cut. You guys wonder what Dan and Dave fell off. Season 6 was a lot of fun, but was it Game of Thrones? Think about that.
It's not. I'm going to go with Daenerys Targaryen versus Cersei Lannister.
Love that one.
My queen, my queen.
Yep. Cersei or Daenerys? Which one?
I said it twice.
Oh, gotcha. Playing both sides. Love that. I'm going to go with Team Black supporters as the first. So mine, Team Black supporters and Logic. All-time beef.
Wow.
They don't pay attention to facts. They live in a world of fiction. So
that's messed up.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap mine up with Alicent versus Good Parenting.
You know what?
Because, like, she's just, I mean, honestly, on that, like, all-time bad dads Mount Rushmore we did a couple weeks ago, like, she should have just slid on the list for how bad of a parent she is.
Uncool, and also inappropriate. What our next segment is You Blew It. I'm going to start off.
Okay.
My good friend, Davos Blackwood, for saying you wouldn't dare. Because guess what, my man? He dared.
He dared.
Davos Blackwood. You blew it, buddy.
You blew
but I do
it.
love you, even though I just met you.
Yeah, he's gone now.
Yeah.
He's gone. Forever.
So dark. Throwing it into the end. He's gone. All right. Forever.
Forever. My You Blew It is Bela kind of missing the boat on Kristen Cole and Gawain Hightower.
Good point.
You know, she had him right there. All she had to do was fly a little bit higher, maybe start a forest fire, but it could have been over. So, Bela.
You blew it, Bela. We do love you, though.
We actually do love you, Bela.
I root for Bela. Yeah. I root for Bela. And I also root for my boy. Who did I pick?
Blackwood.
Davos Blackwood. Yeah, I'm going to research him after this because I know nothing about him.
Well, there's no point. He's gone now. You might as well research his successors.
That's a good call. Yeah. That's a good call. You guys do that as well. Crown their ass. Boom. I'm going to go with this. Who was the MVP of this episode? I'm not going to give it to a human. I'm going to give it to the Castle of Harrenhal and its lore. So, Harrenhal. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. I did. They are who we thought they were.
We'll crown Harrenhal.
We'll crown it.
My crown their ass is Daemon because he claimed the moniker Your Grace. So he crowned himself.
Love that. That's a great one. So Daemon.
If you want to crown them, then crown their ass. He did it himself.
He is who we thought he was.
Yeah, that's true.
He is who we thought he was. All the great ones do. Strategy with Lord Mims. Mims. Learning that the River Lords are in such disrepair, right? They're all over the place. There's a lot of infighting. Lord Tully's frail. His men are not listening to him. He being a liege lord has apparently no sway according to Strong when he's talking to Daemon. If you're Daemon, do you reassess or do you just dig in and say, I got to get the Riverlands and I got to get all 40? How do you get all of them to your side?
I think you do reassess, but you don't necessarily change your plan. You still have to. There's still houses loyal to Rhaenyra in those Riverlands, right? Not all of them, but they are. So you raise your banner at Harrenhal, recruit, maybe half those 40,000, maybe less, right? But there's still a number there that'll be useful to you,
right?
Have that home base at Harrenhal and strike out from there, and use Caraxes to be able to, go and force lords and ladies that are on the borderline and be like, hey, listen, like I'm the one with the dragon on your doorstep, like,
right,
let's go to war. So
is there a scenario though where you do that and then they're like, okay, fine, and then you leave and then the Greens come and they're like, hey, we're the ones with the dragon on your doorstep, and they're like, fine.
See, it's like, listen, like you and your premonitions today, and this guy hasn't even read the book.
I am Alice Rivers. All right, trial by combat. here we go. For those of you who are new to Deep Thrones as well, Trial by Combat is a segment that we've developed where, much like in the lore of Westeros where you fight fire with fire in essence, I am trying to create a show or a movie that I think is maybe more original or better than the Westeros world. And then we sort of debate if that's true. Mm-hmm. Just if you're new.
No, I like you got to set the scene.
Just setting the scene for you guys.
So what idea do we got this week?
So we're dipping our toes back into the Immortal Boys franchise. But House of the Dragon has done something that I would like to duplicate, and that is emphasize more strong female characters, right?
Okay.
And I want to do it better because the boys, it's strong emphasis on boys.
Yeah, it's in the name.
It is. So if you recall, I kind of closed out the Boys series with a finale movie, right? It was called Boys Endgame, and the boys defeat the supervillain Thanos, and he sought to end the world. Well, in this reboot, Thanos essentially makes a comeback, right? And he does it with a vengeance, and he breaks into the boy embassy. It's called the Boise, and he essentially steals the 7 nuts of virtue, which are sort of like the Infinity Stones. And he steals them from the boys, and he essentially uses them. Oh, if you're new to Deep Thrones at all and you're listening to this right now, I apologize. This is a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like a Damon Alice Rivers dream.
It's not good. So anyways, Thanos breaks into the boys' stronghold with his rebuilt army led by his general Darth Vader Ginsburg, and they successfully outwit all the boys for the virtuous nuts, and they use them essentially to reverse the outcome of their original battle. And they trap the boys in like a dimensional realm, right? Which is actually, it's pretty cool. I haven't really thought that part out yet. We'll see how that works. And our dimensional realm was known as the Boyhold, which was also the name of your castle years ago. Thanos then claims Earth as his own, but what he didn't know is that in the years of his absence, the boys opened up new initiatives to include more people, and who they included were girls.
Nice.
They got some females, got some ladies in the mix.
Good.
And they did this to, quote, improve the dude-to-chick ratio.
I mean, we got to be all-inclusive.
100%. It's 2024. I should have been all-inclusive back then, too, and had more girls. But, this is a good learning exercise. House of the Dragon has shown, the importance of strong female characters.
I mean, it's shocking that a supporter of the Greens wouldn't include females from the beginning.
Again, this is a different segment. Keep that shit out. Anyways, they went around the world recruiting exceptional females, such as, you remember the Squirrel Boys? Well, there's cat ladies, which are ladies that are half cat, half woman. They're pretty cool, right?
Okay.
Feline ladies. There's also Swifties, which are just it's not you think. They're just like super fast women, and they call them Swifties. There's also just one lady who's a Karen. She's dope, though. So anyways, there's many more groups, and they they come together and they launch a full-blown attack on Thanos and his generals. And the end game, of course, is to get the boys back safe and sound. In this film, Boys, the Rise of Girls.
Love it.
Yeah.
We got to be careful with, you said they're just really fast women, but, you toss around Swifties. We don't want to get them against us on this pod.
They're not against us. I'm a real-life Swiftie. Good. Not a fast woman, but a fan of Taylor Swift. I wish her the best. I think she's got
bops. You got to respect the hustle,
If you sat down and listened to all of her popular songs, you'd be in a room for like 3 days. She's got 1 million jams.
Yeah, you got to respect the hustle.
For sure. We could move on if you'd like to.
But no, yeah, great trial by combat. I forgot how outrageous the original Boys idea was.
Yeah.
Until you kind of walked us through.
I was looking back through my notes, and I just saw one. It was like Porta Potty Boys.
Yeah, that one.
Squirrel Boys, Shovel Boys.
A lot of boys. They're great, though. You guys should go back and listen to those old Deep Thrones. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But, send us your thoughts on the episode. We do feel like it's going to be a polarizing one. It was a bridge episode. They usually are polarizing, right? Like, people hate them. People are like, oh, that was fine.
My 4.9 wasn't hate. It's all right.
Yeah,
it's all right.
It is what it is.
It was a bridge.
It's a means to an end, and I think next episode's going to be a banger.
Yeah, and as a bridge, according to what I've read in America, most of our bridges are rated at like a 4.9 out of 10, so it really fits.
Dude, Francis Scott Key.
Oh, God, yeah, terrible.
RIP.
Insane.
RIP.
But yeah,
that's all I got.
Yeah, Allison and Rhaenyra, hit me up. Let's go to Menards together.
Not to be messed with, tested, quiz. They shooting shots.